Lorne Lanning brings to the industry some very interesting things. He comes from another world in terms of entertainment, the broadcast area, but he also comes to us with some interesting things, which is a very clear vision about what he wants to do and how he sees the industry, and a very clear vision about how he wants to do it. So welcome, please, Lorne Lanning.
Thanks, Paul. Are we on with the slideshow starting up? Yeah, there we go. Okay. That's the power-up I thought was missing from Caddyshack. But, anyhow, it's great to be here. Wanted to take this time to sort of, give a quick disclaimer, which is in the last couple of years we've talked a lot about what games should be, what they can be, what we want them to be. And then I think, like all of us, all of us that are building games, we usually kind of shoot for here and end up here, But that's not what this talk is about. This talk is about some of the people and the other games that have gone on and where it has hit closer to that mark, which I think is a noble goal for, all of us to be shooting for, and just pushing the medium. There we go. KISS. Now, you guys are in software. There's a meaning for this. What is it? Yeah, not for this talk. This is keeping it simply stupid. This is something that's like, it's inseparable from games, and the more we get humor at every little opportunity, then the more that we entertain the audience, and that's really what it's all about.
Hey, Abe, I can see that this bonehead is talking, but where's Blizzard?
Now, Blizzard, we asked to be here today talking, because I've never seen a Blizzard talk. Blizzard's built a lot of great games. They have a lot of entertainment value in their games, but they didn't show up today. So, I was like, what? I remember talking to Alan years ago on a plane, and he was like, yeah, we just got our, we're working on our first title, that's our own. It was Blackthorn, and a really sweet guy and all that stuff. So I was like, well, why isn't Blizzard here? And it was like, and we got the response back from the Academy, well, corporate policy not to let our people really do public speaking. I was like, what? What's happening there? So I'm taking this opportunity to sort of rag on him, create a little peer pressure, It's going, I'd like to see a Blizzard talk. Would you guys like to see a Blizzard talk? Okay. Somebody's here from Blizzard. Gil, where are you? Gil. I saw your name on the roster, man. I checked it out. Okay, you're here. Know your audience. So here's a little subliminal suggestion for how to treat Blizzard corporate management that feels like, they shouldn't be talking.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Okay. Are today's games like sex? This is something that's like, we need to think about more about the mass audience, I feel. I mean, there's a lot of demographics that say, here's what the gamer wants, here's the age group of 12 to 13, here's this. But the truth is, we're not really branching it out yet. I mean, I think like Will Wright and Maxis and various companies have done amazing things to help spread people's interest in games. EverQuest did an amazing job for getting the female audience, things like that. But there's some sort of core issues that we're missing. Personally, I feel games are a lot like sex today. Why? One of the reasons is like, what's it like for the guy? And the guys are like, yeah, man, games are great, And the girls are like, yeah, they're okay, because there's nothing better around. This is an interesting thing that someone emailed me. The top half of this machine is what it takes to turn on a guy. The bottom half is what it takes to turn on a woman. And I think the top half, the button's a little too big. And on the bottom, there's not enough dials, But this is how something that, as game designers, we should consider as we want to expand, the demographic, because the genders look at it differently. My partner Sherry McKenna sort of points this out all the time. Goes, you're all buttheads, you guys, you give a shit about this and that. Who gives a fuck? And we never hear the end of it. But she's right, So this is our cross-gender hero, not to be confused with like a transsexual hero. because he's only got one set of genitalia, but that's a different issue. What I mean is that this is a guy that's rating really high with the female market and with the younger people. It didn't hit so much hardcore with the hardcore guys. They're like, yeah, well, where's his axe, dude? You know, where's his bazooka, man? And it's like, well, he doesn't have that. But when they focus tested it, they brought back some interesting results, which they usually tell Sherry. They don't tell me because they're kind of afraid I might cry or something. But they'll come back and they go, you know, like Munch, he's cool, man. We think he's cool. But, you know, like when focus testing, if he was at a party, he's not like the guy people would go up and talk to. You know, he's more like the guy who'd be standing by the bar and by the end of the party probably throwing up. You know, but if you did talk to him, you know, you'd find out that he's like, you know, got laid by about 4 movie stars, and then you'd really like him, you know, after you talked to him. And it was like, well, okay, but Munch is kind of only half the story. And I wanted to say this because I think we all experience some of what happens in the process of building games, in the process of designing characters. I worked with Farzad, who was our production designer in designing Munch, and went through literally hundreds of iterations to get here. But this was one part of an ego. This was just the yin of this character. And the yang was something that actually never made it into the game. But this is where we felt he would have had more appeal to the hardcore gamer. That was his other side. Now, when you saw that little clip before where Abe slapped Munch a little, no, stop, cut it out, you know, what that was about was Munch was an animal test subject, and they had been testing steroids and stuff on him. And if you started slapping him around and pissed him off, you'd get this temporary power up. He'd turn into this, he'd be like, cut it out, you know, cut it out, touch, stop, damn, you know, and he'd transform into this guy, and then he'd have a whole different power, and then you could switch to him, and then you could use him to go, you know, kick some booty and do that stuff, and then he'd turn back into this little chump that he is. And that would have made him a different aspect, but, you know, the things happen in the course of production. Missed opportunities. I love this image because it says so much, you know. This is the Pillsbury Doughboy, and he's looking at a bunch of baked-off Pillsbury Doughboys. He's like, but. And she's like, that's right, little guy, and guess who's next, you little bitch? You know, and she's going to fry him up. But it says so many things. But part of the appeal here is, what I'm saying is, who's watching people when people are playing games? Which is something we try to think a lot about. And I think as time goes on, more and more of us are going to have to. Which is, how does the game appeal to, you got one person playing, and most often with games, I'm primarily talking about console games, most often because they take place in the living room, which is like, is the fucking kid done with the TV yet? God, turn that beeping shit off, you know? Or, if I hear another gunshot, you're grounded, whatever. But when the people are watching games, you have the opportunity to sell more games, to get more people sort of passively participating. Here was an example where this really clicked for me, and this was before I started actually building games. Just sort of a monumental moment. So there's like 8 people hanging out. They're all in their 20s and 30s. They used to work at Rhythm and Hughes. They're all film people. We're sitting down. This was captured off the Genesis, but this was on the Turbo Duo system back when, and I couldn't get it, so it's not the original artwork. But this is a moment from Prince of Persia, right? So the people are all hanging out, and they're like, hey, no, jump, dude, no, go up. You know, they're telling him, go, run, go over here. And there's 8 people, and they're all doing this stuff, and they're all watching. They're going, no, jump, don't fall. And then they're all like, oh! Now, granted, they were all on drugs, and they were all sort of pumped up. But this, like, caused 8 people to just be like, oh! You know, and I just couldn't believe that. I was like, wow, that's amazing. 8 of us who weren't playing the game were active participants in one person's playing the game, and we had played like 12 games before that the same night, and no one really gave a shit until this guy fell down and got spikes through his brain. And then the whole thing reacted, and it was like, whoa. And that was a big part of our influence when we started designing some of our earlier games, which was Abe's Odyssey. And here was a moment that got a lot of the female part of the potential market interesting. Now, we received like a lot of hate mail after that. And the reason was we had people that just bought new PSXs, and they'd send us mail, and they'd go, hey, man, I like your game, but you know what? I hate you, because now, after my wife saw me playing Abe, now she's playing Abe all the time. I had to buy another PSX, so fuck you. You know? And we got a lot of mail that was in that realm of We have our 12-year-old playing Abe, and every time the 6-year-old sees the 12-year-old start killing Mudokons, then he unplugs the station from the wall. You know, it's like that's those passive moments, and we've been trying to get more and more of that attention because, one, it's, you know, great advertising for you, but in another, it's going to become a larger part of what makes games really work on the mass level. The lone hero. And part of what we've always been trying to do is take the little guy and put him in more extraordinary circumstances and then, you know, watch really bad things happen to him. But maybe not if you do well. So these are some of the questions that I'm pointing at and for your characters when you're designing your stuff. How's the personality of your basic moves? And this is something that all the time in games I don't see that much attention to, and then sometimes you see people paid a lot of attention to it. And I want to just focus more on the good examples today. Are they enhanced with sound effects? There's some examples of that. These are questions we should always ask ourselves. Is your hero self-aware? Which is something we're constantly striving for and usually not obtaining, at least at our company. Does your hero recognize his rewards? Now, these are really simple things. And I just want to give some examples of the past where it really worked well. Here was one in, you know, on the SNES with Diddy Kong. And his motions are, they're kind of humorous to look at, but every time you stop and think, he's kind of mirroring that and going, what? Huh? What? And that's like, kids just get sucked right into this stuff. And then he finds the little rewards, he'll find the bananas, and he's, in classic in-house Nintendo games, you know, they always show rewards of the character realizing what's happening to him in the game. And this, it just can't happen enough. So he finds his buddy, he picks up the barrel, the animations are good quality, they start walking together. When they switch characters, you know, that's really classic little, tight little moments, you know? And then any time that something happens to these guys, even in the 16-bit era, there would be an animation to support it. That's something that really has to be, you know, planned for and continues to sort of be missed. And I feel like we miss that one ourselves all the time, and I always want to get in there, and it's like, what's wrong with you? You know, in the code, you're yelling at these people, you're yelling at whatever, but it doesn't happen. This is 64-bit. Here's one of the things, Mario. I remember walking around with Sherry at E3 years ago when Mario was first being demonstrated at the Nintendo booth, and Sherry could give a shit less about games, even though she's the CEO of our company. She's all about entertainment value. And when she saw this, she's like, yeah, I really liked Mario. And I'm like, you didn't even play it. You didn't. But here's why she liked it, because when you watch Mario, Mario's having fun. I'm not doing any gameplay here. I'm just running him around, watching his moves support the environment, but he's having a good time. And that's something that we don't see the game characters do that often, is watch them have a good time and support it in a very simple way. But Mario himself, he's having a good time. And you watch the kids and it's like, aside from excellent game design, you know, nobody does it better than the Miyamoto games for that market and all this stuff, but it just hooks them in. And if the character's having a good time, then so long as you know, you have all the other things that so many talks will probably touch on today, game design, controls, and all those issues, then you're in a territory where the person's getting more and more hooked in. The Luigi Walk, this is on the GameCube. But I really like the, just look at some of the nuances of what he does. The way he walks is just funny. You know, his little hands are going, you know. And even though I always hate when I see characters' feet slipping on the floor, it's like, we can't do that. No feet slipping on the floor. They're not moonwalking. But he does it, but it doesn't matter because he's funny the way he does it. Watch his little, he's got little facial expressions when he's whistling. You see his lips moving. When he's walking, look at his nose. Doink, 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 doink. You know, that's classic, man. And that's, it's just really good stuff that as soon as kids start moving that around, and I'm not saying games are about kids, but as soon as people start moving it around more, you'll see that the female market go and be more attracted to that because of the personality in these basic moves. And you'll see the kids. Here's some examples of stuff we did. I'm going to point out some of the good, some of the bad. So this is Munch. You know, he's hopping. We have the little fuzzles hopping, and so like doink, 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 you know, trying to sort of get a laugh. And then he's got a little wheelchair, and then when he starts wheeling around in a wheelchair. It was just important to us to get a hero game character in a wheelchair. I'm not sure why, but that goes back to whatever. And the way the Mudokons work and the way the things, you know, when you're watching, it's like if you can get those connections going between the characters where they feel like they're paying attention to each other, it was important to us that the characters felt like they're intentionally trying to keep up with one another. They're intentionally trying to be aware of what's going on around them. And to the degree that we're successful, I felt was very minimal, you know. Here's something I'm not seeing in our stuff, which is, which always wanted and just never get, you know. Some of it's middleware, some of it's programming, some of it's software, some of it's, you know, ill-conceived ideas. A lot of different reasons, but it's not about excuses. But if you look at what's not happening with facial expression, you know, we got eyes blinking, but we have no expression in our real-time characters. Our pre-rendered characters in our movie are all loaded, you know, the 60, 70, 80 bones in the characters, all kinds of facial targets, but we didn't get in the code of the real-time stuff. So even Luigi has more facial expression capability than our guys, you know, running around in a more realistically rendered world. Had they had those things, then they'd just create that little extra magnetism of what's going on. What we try to do, the funny moments too of things that happen. Here's Munch in a wheelchair, going into a well. There goes the wheelchair, and then there goes Munch. Another one of Luigi. This is just some great animation support. I feel like we don't often have a venue to just pick out some of these finer details, but here's something I really appreciate. He finds an enemy. One is the sounds. Nintendo's great. Every time there's a sound, every time something happens, every time it's all supported with sound effects, and the sound effects, you know, they're just like a good movie in sound design. They start picking you up, putting you on the edge. But here's one of the things. Watch as Luigi's vacuuming. You know, all his weight, as he's pulling, all his weight is there, and he's pulling and he's struggling. When he's getting pulled, instantly his animations are sliding. So the sliding and the pulling and the weight distribution is all in this little simple character, which gives it that much more life in a little simple way. Whether you like the game or not, you can't deny that these things are happening. And the animators are consciously putting that stuff in, constantly paying attention to it. It's not just that the interaction of the mechanic is happening, but the support of the animations are really bringing that more to life, giving it a little more sensibility. And of course, every time they get a reward, the sort of classic Nintendo style, oh yeah, the character knows it. You know, I built 3 games. I don't have one character realizing when he's done a reward. It's been heartbreaking. But here's an example of some great animations. And I just want to show how this takes to another degree of life. This is ICO, just a basic move on a pipe climb. And it doesn't feel like a game. I mean, that's flawless, man. There's a couple pops in there, but this is real time. You're playing this. Here's another one where he climbs on a windmill. And the camera work, this is one of the first games I feel like, this isn't game camera work, this is cinematography. And it's happening in real time. So I'm scootling him over there and getting the stuff. But his animations are supported. This is one of the best indications, I think, of the future, where these characters feel more like actors on sets than they do like characters in a game. And I think ICO's done that better than anyone ever. Those guys are here today, by the way. Where's the ICO team? I know you're here. I talked to you last night. I kissed your ass for like 10 minutes. Where? Okay, well, the ICO team's here today, so from Japan, so it's very exciting. This is a cliff walk. This is a good example of when the basic moves with an advanced kind of camera system. Now, the hardcore gamer, I heard a lot of hardcore gamers go, yeah, but the camera in ICO, man, it really pissed me off. It's like, okay, because you want a Doom camera in every fucking game you play, man. You know, Jesus. I mean, and you know what? No one can stand watching you play that because they all get headaches. But because you've been doing it for 7 years, you don't mind. And it's like, that's okay. It makes good gameplay for those games. But when you see camera systems that start doing this, then they start enhancing other types of emotions, other types of reactions from you. This is ICO running along the cliff. This is all in real time in gameplay. And then as he goes over here, he's just going to start doing some of his basic cliff walk, but because of the camera move, you really start getting a sense of the height of the condition that the character's in. You know, I've never really seen that, done that well before in a game in real time. Now, when I show you this, it's not like you played for 4 hours and you're engrossed in the moment and you start getting connected to the character. So it doesn't have the same impact as if you were playing and if you're one of those people that really got into this game. But it's something that in the basic moves with a new type of camera system starts enhancing different types of emotions, different types of feelings that we haven't traditionally been feeling that often. Heroic transformations. This is, I love this image. One of our producers sent this out in an email. I kind of feel this way too often. Changes in characters' basic moves and changes in the character's attitude when something happens where the characters are changing themselves in real time. And I'm not talking about like they get power-ups so now they're more powerful, or they get more shields so now they defend themselves better. I'm talking like major character changes that take place. I've only seen a few examples of this done well. Again, I'm using Luigi. There's something very subtle going on here that I thought was very indicative of where things are going. He's in a haunted house, and he's just whistling. So you hear. Very, very simple. You hear it through the game. Until he's in a room alone with a ghost that he can't catch. And now the subtlety. And then as he stops whistling and he starts humming. So he's like, and then there's little ghosts that are sort of mirroring his hum that are freaking him out a little more. Now he did that in his idol. He's like, what? What's over there? What's over there? I didn't do anything on the controls. But that's like, it's this little simple moment, often overlooked, but it's something that I think is very indicative of where things are going in the future. And then when you want to see, like, am I in for something special? This is from a game called Conker's Bad Fur Day. And you knew that you're in for something different right from this moment.
Stupid logo.
Okay, now I got to ask. There's a lot of Nintendo people here, right? Saw your name on the roster, man. Can't hide. Is that a yes or a no? Is this like a dead... Nintendo people. Okay, thank you. Okay, you had to do that. How the hell did you get this approved? Who's here from Rare? Anyone? I mean, how did you get to chop the Nintendo logo in half? That's like, I've never worked with Nintendo, but I just can't imagine the politics that you went through to go, no, it'll be cool if we do this, you know? And then to do this.
Yeah, that's better. You can get it.
Does anyone here know the story to that? I mean, was it a real? It had to be. It's probably a book could be written on getting that logo cut in half. This is from Conker 2, and it was a game that I had no interest in playing. It was an N64 game that was when the new generation stuff was coming out, and then some people told me, Ted Price told me, man, you just got to play this. There's do some crazy stuff in there. Here's one of the things that just sort of blew me away, again, on those character transformations. It starts off, and Conker's drunk when you start playing the game. So all your basic moves are like real slow, and you know, I'll show you what's going on.
My head like a badger's ass.
He said, my head feels like a badger's ass, you know? What the hell? So I'm trying to make him run, but he's only walking. He's like, That's his jump when he's drunk. This is a punch. It's real lame when he's drunk. So his basic moves are like incapable because he's drunk. Then he finds another scarecrow who's a drunk too.
What's that? Hey. Who are you?
Oh, hello. Can you help me? I need to get home and go to bed because I don't feel very well at all.
Now that's a game motivation, you know? That's a level pull. It's like usually it's like save the princess, you know, rescue the Fuzzles, do this, do that. Sorry. And you know, but it's like I need to get home and go to bed. That's more of those real life scenarios. They're finding themselves into the game. We all experience it probably tonight, and we'll feel that way tomorrow. But it's like he's doing it in gameplay, in real time. And then he finds a solution. So you find these buttons, they're called context-sensitive buttons in the game. And I just walked him up drunk onto a button, and you hit the B button when you stand on the button. And then instantly, very seamlessly.
Oh, just what I needed.
Then he's back into play. And now, as soon as he's back into play, all his basic moves have changed. But getting back to my point of earlier, when if Mario jumped, he's like, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, yahoo, you know, whatever. He's doing that kind of crazy stuff. If Conker was doing that, you know, here's a missed opportunity with Conker. So now Conker's jumping around, but because he's all foul-mouthed and doing stuff like that, he'd be like, yahoo, you know. His eyes have changed, not red anymore. He's like, big titties, whatever. He'd be saying, you know, crazy stuff. And all his moves changed immediately. Heroes and chums. Are your characters aware of each other? Like constantly, you know, I look at like the Final Fantasy games, millions and millions of units, but when you walk around, you touch the characters, you're walking right through them, they have no awareness of where you are until you go into a fight mode. It's just like, for me personally, it kind of blows the illusion of life. It's like, why aren't they aware of each other? Why aren't they making, at least having some semblance of being able to go, yeah, that guy's there and I'm here? Are they aware of each other's actions? Are they supported by animations and sound effects? This is from one of our earlier games where this is just an example of that. And it got a lot of laughs when people played it. This is Abe, you know, and he's not supposed to get his buddies killed, but he did.
Oops.
Just that little bit, you know, and it goes a long way. And then the more it happens, the more it can, you know, get more laughs out of the audience. And then the more that the other characters, I'm pulling from some of the Abe games, and there was more of it in those old games than we got into the new games, but that's a long story. But this is when they saw their buddies getting killed.
Hi. Hi. Hi.
And then they get sad, you know. And then if they see too many guys get wasted, then they become a little they're in need of some therapy, and they start going suicidal.
Oops.
Just little stupid opportunities, you know. But people, when that happens, they like start, you know, freaking out if they're into it, and then they're like, oh no, shit, they died, you know, whatever. But your guy was aware of it, which makes especially the younger audience get more involved, and especially the female audience get more involved. This is just little examples of basic moves where, like, when characters stand inside each other, you know. Now, there's a lot of issues in this, and I think most of us are dealing with still, which is like, if they can't go through one another, then the controls have a problem, or how is it smart enough, or how much attention is dedicated to code. This is one of the ways we resolved it, which is our characters could stand inside each other, but we tried to make them look aware, like, so they'd try to step out. So Abe's going to walk over and like stand in this guy. And then he backs up. He's right inside him, but he backs up. And that little bit just makes it a little bit more life. Even though there's a lot of missed opportunities in, you know, in our own products where we try to get more of that. That's just one of those examples when if they stand there inside one another for 5 minutes, you're going, that looks really fake. As long as they separate, it gets a little closer to a goal. Trying to make it more like a toy. This is just like, so that those basic moves are more fun on a regular basis. This is Abe, he throws Munch away, and Munch will like keep coming back, you know. And then we wanted to have things where like you throw him more and more, and then he gets more and more pissed off, but some of the emotional systems didn't get in. Feedback between characters. Like if you're supposed to do something, but the game won't allow you to do it, right? Instead of just being like, okay, nothing's happening, what do I try now? You just try and get some comments in there of what takes place. So we actually have these farts and burps in our game, and they do serve purposes at various times. But also when they serve no purpose, we're trying to get a little more humor in them.
Okay, get to work. Not gonna happen.
So he's like, I'm not going to work for you, man. No. But instead of just sitting there and getting no response, then at least it's giving you a little feedback, and a little feedback has a little attitude. This is one where there's these shamans in our game that are really kind of lame in that, you know, they're the information distributors, so you don't have to go up and read it, but they only appear in certain places, and a lot of the AI didn't get into it. We wanted different things. But at the same time, it was information that was critical to the player to be able to, you know what they had to do if they start getting stuck without resorting to the manual and things like that. So this is a shaman, right? So you go up and you touch the circle, and a guy appears.
Abe, Munch, you found each other. That's great.
So then he'll keep on talking about all this stuff and carrying on and going on. You're going to get tired of it a second or third time, and sometimes you'll accidentally trigger this stuff. So here's how we just deal with that. We go, you know, these guys are annoying, they're there for a purpose, but if you get annoyed by them, then you should be able to have your characters feel some of that annoyance that you're feeling, trying to mirror the sensations of what's happening inside us into the characters in the game. So again, Abe will go up and cut them off.
Abe, Munch, you found...
Yeah, you always say that. Fine, be that
way. This is an old fart. Little moments. Here's a new fart.
Everybody listen. Hello, Abe. Down, though.
Taking it further, how does the interactions make you feel, make me feel? Am I feeling a connection between them? This is ICO. Amazing that someone paid this much attention to the detail of the hand holding. You're controlling the main character, the girl's behind you. I mean, that's a sense of life that we've never seen. I've never seen. That's amazing. And as it keeps on going on through the things, she starts doing things like this, connecting to the character. He's going down, going, come on. In real time. I mean, that's a connection. That's a filmmaker's connection. That's not a game connection. But it's happening in real time in gameplay. This is another connection, but this is a connection between game designers. So this is Alex Gardner dry humping Chris Taylor at last year's GDC. But that's a really long story. I'm going to move on from there. Let's see. And then when characters can't respond to other characters, they should, you know, at least have, we didn't want the Mudokans to be responding to Munch in Munch's Odyssey, but they should do something.
All right, y'all. Look at that.
So they laugh at him.
Hello.
And Abe with the Fuzzles, he can't command them, but they want responses.
Okay, listen up.
Heroes and Chums at War. Can you put the screws to your buddies, and does it make you feel like a real prick? Because that's kind of what makes those moments feel good if you do them. I'm going to cut through some of the old stuff, go to like if Abe throws guys off a cliff. He's not supposed to do this, but we're trying to let you feel like you have more control over the chemistry of the characters in the game, and when you do... landmines, just making, this is you know, the more guy moments, but... And then those effects, you know, the mines hit mines hit mines, the characters will keep on bouncing and do different things, and just those little moments. Munch and Mines, Munch relief. Here's Munch and Abe.
Dude, that's nasty. That's just wrong. Dude, what's up with that?
This is an ICO moment, and it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but it deserves to be seen by all of us. This is, you're playing the game, ICO's lighting a mine here. He takes it over, he throws it into a tower. Boom, the bars fade on. In-game cinematics exactly tied to the play. Towers fall, creating a new avenue for the character to travel through. Camera returns to the character seamlessly, the bars fade away back to interactivity. It's a filmmaker's game. But what about the advertising on that game? Did anyone remember the ads or the cover of the box or the print ads? This is a masterpiece of gaming, ICO. Whether or not the really hardcore guys totally agree with me or not, this made a lot of milestones. And then the advertising was just like, what? You know, it had nothing to do with the game. This is like, what's up with the game industry, man? You know, there's all these games and they always get promoted the same way. I see some good ads for the hardware, rarely ever see great ads for the software. And this has a long way to go. Here's an ad for dog food. It's a print ad. It's dog food. I mean, it's like people don't want to buy dog food anyway. They don't give a shit about their dog. It's just like get the food, feed the dog, all's well, doesn't shit on the floor. This is a dog food ad where it's called creativity in a major way. Right? I think this is out of UK. It was love at first sight. His red velvety tongue hanging out, and he stared at me with his big brown eyes. Then he buried his face between my legs. This is a dog food ad. That's creative advertising. I mean, dog food. How do you sell dog food? Anyway, heroes and enemies. More bangs if their interactions are funny or crazy. This is Munch doing a water zap. He's trying to make a defenseless character feel more powerful against guys that are much more powerful. And he drowns him and swims along in his way. Girl fights. These are great basic moves. These are funny. They captured, I don't know, where I grew up, I saw a lot of girl fights. And then I watched a lot of fighting games, and I was like, that's not how girls fight. It's just not how girls fight, man. They don't fall down like that. They fall down like this. I mean, that's motion captured from the real source of crazy stuff going on. And they just go on. Crazy moves. And then they show, you know, kind of like the card damage, the faces, the black eyes, and things after that. I felt bad that the pink girl was getting beat up the whole time, so I beat up the white girl for a little while there. And then it was funny just how they cut the camera from the point of view of the boxer getting up to the guy, and he's got character, you know, he's funny looking. Great faces. Here, this is one of the greatest face expressions I ever saw in a video game.
I'm angry now.
Had to slow it down. I mean, look at that. Oh, that's great. That's like Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull. You know, oh. Thought I'd tone it down and show something more casual here. I study this stuff all the time. I can't tell if this one's real or not. But what I'm looking at is the IK reference in real life. And you got a game like Halo where they made things like this happen in the details. As is, I'm just throwing bombs down at the corpses. But they paid a lot of attention. Someone made this code to make sure that when these things are rolling, their interactions with the ground are right on. I mean, compared to real life, this is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And we start heading towards the guy stuff. You know, here's something from at the top of the charts today. It doesn't have the same degree of realism, doesn't have the subtlety in the moves, doesn't have, it's the craziness that's making this thing extreme. Grand Theft Auto 3. Characters are aware. And definitely it's a guy's game, and the women get more pissed off when they see this usually. But it's like, this is one of the first games that while you're playing the game, you get easily distracted by the world within the game, and then it starts drawing you into something else, and then you find, oh, I'm not even following the game anymore, which is, we were after, we didn't achieve, but they started to achieve. And it's just the crazy stuff that happens in this game. There's a persistent world that's taking place most of the time. I remember when Driver came out, and I thought that it was one of my favorite games, and I was driving around and I went, you know, they probably didn't have people running them over because it would be too intense. So they probably had that in the game, but then they probably took it out, you know. And then, of course, you know, 2 years later, Grand Theft Auto 3 releases, has the same driving controls as very, very similar to Grand Theft Auto 3. But now look at the future, you know, when. And I think Sam Houser, you know, he must be sort of stacking up the money at Rockstar Games for the legal defense fund that's bound to come crashing, you know, with the various games that they're publishing today. But when you start looking at the realism of the IK in Halo, and then look at what's happening in Grand Theft Auto 3, and then you put together the two for tomorrow, you know, we're looking at a different type of reality for these experiences that are going to be pretty wild. This is truly heroic stuff, moments that are happening. I'm sort of moving out of the comedy realm and just heading towards some of the ICO moments where you felt a sense of pressure. The people who got into this game really got into this game. Now he just goes over there, immediately in-game, these spirits arise. He's like, come on, to the girl. She starts to come, and as she's coming, boom, she gets caught by the guys. He gets slapped. Now he's got to try and save her from getting put down in a hole. Now, if you got into this game You started to sense a feeling of heroism and protection over someone innocent that was never felt in a game before, and largely because of the realism of the characters and the way that they were bringing this stuff to life. And then you're usually helping the girl. And this is a case where, like I'm saying, this is a filmmaker's game. The cinematography and the way that they stage what's happening as you're playing is really kind of a monumental achievement. So he's got the girl, she feels helpless most of the time, he's being pursued. The guys are after her, these spirit things, but he gets her to this location, and then she helps him out. So they're coming on her, she touches the thing, boom, there's the smart bomb. So it's like, even though she's helpless, if you can get her to the right place at the right time, she's a real payoff. There's a role reversal that takes place that I'm not going to show right now. Here's a pressured rescue. This is when he game speaks her, she's over there. The camera automatically drifts over to see where she's at. He triggers an event. She's on the platform, she moves over. As soon as she moves over, boom, the bad things start coming again. As they start coming, you see what's going to happen. She's over there, you got to get there. Now the pressure's on. It's not a timer that's counting down. It's not a traditional type of pressure scenario. It's a filmic moment that's unfolding in gameplay. Now they've got her, and he starts chasing her and trying to rescue her. They start taking her into a hole, they're carrying her, she looks helpless. He pulls her back out, continues to fight. You know, we don't see moments like that all the time. This is something where the character's aware. He gets a special sword at the end, and he starts defending himself. You don't have to deal with it. And this is the queen, and she's sending off these radiants of energy. I mean, I just also appreciate the detail of this game. The smoke clouds within the level. Every time she sends out one of these energy blasts, well, when he hits her, the sword gets thrown away, and then he has to go find it, and he can't get hit by the energy blast without the magic sword. But when he gets the sword, he automatically protects himself from these energy blasts, so that's consciousness within the character. You don't have to do that, it does, which makes you feel like he's smarter. And then he starts heading in for the final moments. And a beautiful, seamless connection between gameplay and story. As soon as you stick the sword in, it's going to this in-game cinematic. Looking at this woman's character, the particles and stuff, I thought it was a pretty creative way to portray characters within a game. Now, this is after the credits, and a lot of people that played the game didn't even see this, but this is a real sort of cinematographer's moment within an actual gameplay, something that we never see. So now we were in the in-game cinematic, and this is after the credits have rolled. You thought that it was kind of a tragic story. If you bared through the credits, you know, he's tired, the whole castle just fell down, all these things happen. And you start playing again in real time, but you don't really know why. And the camera backs way off. And he starts, you're running him and you're controlling him. This is in-game. Look at how small he is in screen. We never see this in games. It's a moment that's trying to make you feel like you're in this vast, empty world, and the way they're achieving that is through cinematography, pulling the camera back until he finds the girl. And you didn't expect it there. It was after the credits. And when he finds her, he's not sure if she's dead, what happened. She's sort of back to life. She's not such an enchanted, ghostly figure anymore. And this is one game where it had a lot of connections to the user, those that really got into it. But at the same time, there was not an eligible word spoken through the whole game. But after all the work this guy did, the guys that created ICO, does he get some after this? Because he was like busting his ass, helping her through the whole thing. Okay. I'm out of time. I hope this was of some benefit to y'all, and thank you for coming. That's it for me.